Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Basics podcast. I, again, am Emily. This is Dawn. I was a former plant based nutrition coach and fitness coach. And Dawn and I have come together to create this podcast in order to help you guys along on your health and wellness journey. Dawn, do you want to give a little bit more information about yourself before we dive in?
Sure. My background is I have a background in plant-based nutrition and coaching, and I'm a plant-based chef. I founded a company called Veggie Cooking, which teaches plant-based cooking classes to families. And I now run a corporate wellness program that is run by the Plant Strong by Metabite program. So I am the director of plant-based nutrition for a large company in California. So I help facilitate and run that program.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to do this podcast.
Yes, I was going to say this is, like I said, episode 3. So last month, I about said last week, we talked about calorie density. So the ability to eat more food with fewer calories, accommodating weight loss, health in general. So today we're kind of expanding on that and talking about the plate method. So we're going to explain what it is, what's included in this plate method, how it can help reach your goals, and why it is important. So let's dive right in. Dawn, can you explain more about what this plate method is?
The plate method is really based on the past dietary recommendations from the USDA. So now we have the upside down triangle, but before that was actually a plate. And so the USDA had put out a plate, and Harvard had actually put out a healthy plate as well. So in our veggie cooking classes, we created a kind of a combination of the two for presenting in our cooking classes, and it makes it super easy to understand how to build a balanced plate. So we're going to put up an image of what we use in our cooking classes, and we find this just makes it it's just a visual to go by, and then you can use the foods on here in so many different combinations. But what it basically is half of your plate is fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. Quarter of your plate is a whole grain, and we can go into a little bit more about what that would look like. And then a quarter of it would be a healthy protein. And then up in the top of it, you'll see water, and then plant-based options for calcium, because the human body absolutely needs calcium, but you can find many different sources for calcium. So we have some plant-based sources listed on there.
Yes, love that. And I love that the plate method, I mean, you can visualize it. Most of us, if we're not eating out of a bowl, we're probably eating out of a plate. So it's nice to visually see, your plate, and it's different with the pyramid, or the new inverted pyramid that we have going on now, which we won't even get into. But I do like the visual. It's very easy to relay. I feel like the triangles and stuff can get kind of messy and confusing. So I feel like this way of eating visually does make things, a lot more simple. So you talked about what, real quick, you talked about what is on the plate. What is not on the plate? We're not leaving room for what, junk food and
right. Processed foods are not on the plate, and we also don't include a lot of really high fat animal foods on our plate. That can be part of a diet, but we are focusing on plant-based. So what you're not finding on ours is the butter and the eggs and all the different dairy sources and animal foods in general.
Yep. Very clean, whole food, plant-based eating. Love it.
Yes.
So do we want to dive in a little bit more? I know you said we could kind of give examples of the whole grains and stuff. I feel like fruits, veggies, we're all pretty sure, water, what those are. First, whole grains. Can you go into some examples just for our audience on what these whole grains consist of?
Mm-hmm. And in a future episode, we'll do a little bit of myth busting around carbohydrates and how not all carbohydrates are created equally. So what's on this plate are whole food forms of carbohydrates. So you're going to see maybe quinoa, brown rice. If you want to do pasta, you could do a like a brown rice pasta or a whole wheat pasta, or you could do farro is another delicious one. Barley. There are so many delicious whole grains that you could use. And also in that quarter of the plate, you might want to put a starchy vegetable. We usually talk about whole grains, but you could also add a starchy vegetable, which would be a potato or sweet potato or a squash, like a butternut squash, things like that.
Yeah.
That could be there too.
Perfect. And then the plant protein. So can
Mhm.
you get, I mean, I'm just going to throw my favorite one
Yeah.
out, tofu. I feel like
Okay.
we talked about
Love
that
it.
last episode or the first episode because that is my go-to. But obviously there are many sources of plant protein. So do you want to kind of go through a little bit more in depth what the plant, protein
Protein.
category looks like?
Yeah. And we do find in the corporate wellness program that we run, the people that want to dive in really fast, they're eating a lot of these like low calorie dense, high nutrient foods,
Hmm.
but they're not getting enough calories. So they're feeling full because they're filling up on the fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
But then they're sometimes like, well, I'm a little tired. Well, the piece that they're usually missing is that bottom quarter that is the plant protein.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, your cooked beans. So when there's a lot of myths out there about lectins in beans, when you cook beans, there are no more lectins. So you do not have to worry about lectins. Um, and what also is on there is the tofu, your tempeh. You could have seitan every now and then. But if we're really looking at those whole food sources, it's going to be like your legumes and your tofu, tempeh, things like that. There can also be the bean-based pastas on there, which I love as well.
Hmm.
So that I have found red lentil pasta is really delicious. There's chickpea pasta. So those are great options too.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say the pasta variety nowadays with the red lentils and all these different protein
Yeah,
pastas are
they're
fabulous.
so
So yeah.
good.
So what
Yeah.
you're explaining with the plate method really is such a well-balanced way to eat. You're getting, you're not just eating one food category. I feel like when I hear like the typical, bodybuilder going, in the meat eating scenario, it's like chicken, rice, broccoli, and
Yeah.
that's like it all the
Yeah.
time. This really encourages a variety of foods. And you definitely, I mean, if you have a go-to, that's definitely fine. But adding in variety throughout the weeks and varying the nutrients that you're getting is just wonderful for the body. So I love that you explained that how you did. So next we're going to be talking about portion guidance. So a lot of people when they go into losing weight or in their health journey, it's like, okay, I have to count calories, I have to weigh out my food, I have to track every bite. So is that the case with this this plate method?
No. And the reason why is because you're putting those low calorie dense foods on half your plate.
Yeah.
Or if you're mixing a bowl up all together, you just have to kind of think, okay, the big base of it is going to be your fruits and vegetables. And since those are so far down on the calorie density scale, you really don't need to worry about your volume of how much you're eating of those.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about the whole grains, we usually measure in about half a cup servings. So it's about a palmful is what we tell everybody. Just it doesn't have to be perfect. Just like about a palmful is what you want to put on there for your whole grains and your legumes. And even same thing, if you think about a block of tofu, a lot of times it will say 5 servings. I usually get about 4 servings out of it,
Yeah.
but it's not a huge,
Yeah.
it's not huge. And if you want to eat a little more, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
So the key is really filling up on those fruits and vegetables because that's half of your plate. And then when you're thinking about, like we talked about in the previous episode, the things that you're going to want to pay attention to as your, like Plant Strong calls it sparks. When you're putting their toppings on, you want to think about those lower calorie dense toppings. So you're going to want to, if you're going to use a little bit of olive oil, measure it out.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to use avocado, do about a quarter of the avocado. So those super high fat things are the only things that we might consider measuring out.
Mhm.
If you are trying to manage your weight. If you're not, you can probably be a little more generous with it.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think some people like to calorie count or weigh their foods,
Mm,
or and we've talked about it before off the podcast that you'll sometimes like go through phases where you'll count calories just for a little bit, just for like a reality check, and then get back to it. I have done it maybe once or twice, but it's like the preferred method is just to eat and enjoy it and feel good and get to your goals, whether it's weight loss or health or whatever. So I feel like this is very accommodating to that because it's like I don't think most people want to count calories and weigh
no,
food. I could be
no.
wrong, but I feel like in the past when I've talked about just calories in general, coaching clients are like, oh, I don't want to count calories. But it's like sometimes it is nice for the reality check, especially if you're not doing the plant based or the plate method. I keep wanting to call it the plant based method. We'll
Yeah.
just rename it that.
Yeah.
That it is nice to just get an understanding. And next episode, we're going to talk about label reading, which is important too. But the nice thing is with this, there is just one less stress. We all have enough going on in our lives. We don't want to count calories as well. So, but also with the variety of the plate, I mean, if you think of the macronutrients and the micronutrients, you're getting such a variety. So it's like you're really nourishing the body, which is what we want. So, yep.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the biggest benefits is you're covering all those macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but then you get so many of those little micronutrients, phytonutrients, all of
Yep.
those, benefits. And one of the things when we're teaching the kids in our cooking classes, we show them this plate and we're just like, what do you notice about this plate? And or what can you tell us what a source of protein is? And if they do say beans, I always, I never discount anything they say. Of course, there are multiple varieties of proteins out there. But for the plant-based, I get really excited because they're the only types of proteins that also have fiber. And we know that we need protein, but we also need fiber. And that's the one thing that Americans do not get enough of because it feeds our microbiome, has that connection with our immune system. It's 70% of our immune system. It connects to our brain health. So that's why when people eat more plant-based foods, they always are in a better mood. So many amazing connections there with adding more plant proteins to your plate.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you added the fiber component there because that's nothing that we will, in later episodes, but we haven't specifically talked about that. But that is something that it's just like staggering like you said, the statistics of how many of us are not getting enough fiber. So it's like it's
Yeah.
crucial and you're getting it easily with this diet. So that is the
Mhm.
wonderful thing. All right, so next, let's talk about some real life examples. I know both of us are foodies. We have a lot of recipes on our websites. We'll share some pictures here, but just because it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to start here because I
Yeah.
meal prepped this week. I did some power bowls. I think they were called glow bowls technically from the recipe I used, but they had a ton of spinach on them, sweet potatoes, some steamed sweet potatoes, tofu, quinoa, avocado, and then I finished with like a tahini maple Dijon sauce that's super easy to throw together. That's just fresh in my mind because I ate that 2 hours before we hopped on here.
I love
And
that.
I know you have tons of examples as well. Do you have one in particular you can think of that you can share just so we get an idea?
Yes, most recent one is because I was at a farmer's market and bought this beautiful Romanesco cauliflower, which looks like this
Ooh,
really cool geometric
yeah.
cauliflower. It has these shapes. It's fantastic. And I had no idea what I was going to do with it, but I brought it home. I saw a pint of tomatoes that were on the verge of, I wasn't going to be able to use them, so I knew I needed to use those. I had some garlic on hand. So I decided to roast that together. And then I said, okay, what am I going to use for my protein source? So I did tempeh and I did actually the bean-based pasta. So if I was
Mm-hmm.
going to do more of a whole grain or something in there, I probably could have used like a whole wheat pasta, but since I wanted to bump up the protein because
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of weightlifting and things like that. And I knew I was going to get plenty of fiber from this. I did the red lentil pasta from Trader Joe's
Love that.
and tempeh. And so I cooked that up and I roasted the tempeh with the vegetables. So I made sure I had a ton of vegetables. And then I put it all together. And then my kind of spark toppings were I did use a little just teaspoon of this really beautiful Tuscan herb olive oil to kind of pull this Italian flavor together with the roasted tomatoes and the garlic and the cauliflower. And then I added some olives for a little bit of saltiness. And then I measured out just one serving from the serving that I took out of the Rebel cheese. It has this Tuscan tomato cheese. Oh my gosh, it was so good. So that was just an example of kind of throwing it all together. So I didn't necessarily have like measured out half of my plate. It was just, I kind of visualized, okay, the majority of it is going to be my vegetables. And then I've got my pasta up here. And then I've got my, my tempeh as my protein source. So it came together really beautifully. And the only thing I had to measure out was just that little bit of the Rebel cheese because it's a cashew-based cheese, so it's a little higher. And just the teaspoon of olive oil. But I really used that for all. I did, I think, 3 servings of pasta. So I have a bunch of leftover with all this. I think it made like 4 servings or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the thing, and we talked about that during calorie density, how oil adds up quickly. But when you use it sparingly and like that high quality stuff, a little goes a long way and adds that flavor rather than it's like the saturated, like when you go to a restaurant, they just saturate.
So greasy. Everything's so greasy and salty.
And once you like omit it and then you have like, I'll go to a restaurant, I'm like, oh gosh, that was just all oil. I feel it. I feel it in my stomach. So I can tell you're a foodie the way you described the cauliflower. But I get it.
It's so beautiful. I like Romanesco is like the most interesting plant. I swear. I love it. It's
We're
really
food
cool.
nerds.
Yeah.
Thank you though. That was beautiful. And again, I mean, we can share links in this episode description or whatever, but we've got tons of examples and there are so many amazing food bloggers out there with other examples. So we'll share some resources. But before we wrap up here, I want to talk about some common questions, misconceptions, troubleshooting. So the first one on my list here is, do I always need exactly half of my plate as veggies? And I know we kind of touched on this, but just for any concerned listeners, do they need to have it exactly half?
No, I mean, you just want to estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be measured. It's just kind of an estimate. And that's what we like about the plate. It's just that visual that makes it so much easier to plan out a balanced plate. It's really kind of foolproof the way we do this. And it takes out that measuring that you are so right. Nobody wants to count calories, protein, fat. Everybody's sick of counting. And just this ties together that, calorie density that we talked about with also making sure that you are covering all of the macronutrient needs.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I'll still cook from recipes often, but it's nice like when I go to grocery shop, especially like if I'm online grocery shopping, and it's like I'm thinking of my meal, I'm like, I'm really wanting tofu. That's just about every week. So I'm like, okay, cool, and let's get a green in there. Let's get a green. It's just like checking those boxes and adding it to a bowl, and it's like, okay, I know that one is going to be nutritionally complete. Next, okay, dinner, and just doing the same kind of thing. And now that I think that, I'll share my master grocery list. I can't even remember what I titled it. It's been a while since I created it, but it has all these categories, and it can kind of help you when you're grocery shopping, and it ties in nicely to this plate method. So I digress. What if I'm eating out and don't control the portions? I guess with eating out and trying to follow the plate method, I know that can be a challenge. Do you have any recommendations?
I would start out with a broth-based soup if they have it, or a salad with the dressing on the side so you can control the dressing or ask for olive oil or vinegar. We go to a Cuban restaurant where they always bring out this really disgusting looking ranch. So I just tell them to keep it. And I get a side salad first before I get my beans and rice.
Yeah, yeah.
And they make this like beautifully artfully made side salad. I put vinegar on it and it's delicious. It's almost like a big pickle. I love pickles, but
Same.
if I wanted to, I would add a little bit of olive oil because they just put that on the table. So just to kind of do a what we call a negative calorie preload, where you're filling up on, your essentially your fruits and vegetables first, or
Yeah.
in this case, it would be the vegetables first, and then whatever your plant-based meal option comes out after that, at least you've covered your vegetable portion. It's probably going to be tough to get fruits in there, so you could always have a fruit earlier in the day.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that part that much.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's like a mixture of fruit and vegetable.
Yeah.
And then that way, you've at least got that covered. And then if there's a tofu option or maybe some kind of veggie burger or something like that, then you have a little more flexibility because you've filled up on your low calorie dense foods first.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good suggestion. I like that. I feel like dependent on the restaurant, it can be
Mm.
easier or very challenging. There's some restaurants that it's like, wow, I've been to, I don't go out often, but if I did, it's like, wow, they have like nothing.
Yeah.
So sometimes eating beforehand or just getting the bare minimum and then eating afterwards. But also, I feel like sides, depending on what it is, but sometimes just throwing
Right.
sides together like rice and veggies and, like you said, beans, just doing the best you can. But eating out can be challenging. So just be,
Yes. We could do a whole episode on eating out, traveling, all the
yeah,
things.
yeah. I was gonna say, especially
Mhm.
like we said earlier with the oil, it's like it's harder to control. I know you can ask.
Very hard in restaurants to be able to control the amount of oil unless you tell them no oil. But a lot of times they like get all locked up and they're like, I don't know what to do.
How do I do this without oil? Yeah, I've never asked no oil. Because I don't go out much, I just deal with it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you just have to navigate, but it is doable. And if you're not eating out all the time, if it's just one off, it's not gonna make or break it. So,
Yeah.
last little question here: can this work for families and picky eaters? The plate method.
It can. And you know what I do with families, especially people that are new to plant-based eating and their family's not on board? We do bars. So a salad bar, a pasta bar, a potato bar,
Yeah.
where if you've got your spouse that's totally not on board, they can kind of like have whatever else they want to add to it. But at least I put all these all these ingredients in Pyrex, where I can just put the top on when I'm done, and then I can use that prepped ingredient for another recipe.
Yeah.
But if I set up the whole pasta bar or whatever, you can build, okay, so if I have pasta, a whole wheat pasta or a bean-based pasta, maybe what veggies can I add in here? Spinach, could I do roasted broccoli? Could I do roasted cauliflower? And then you're looking at, are you doing a bean-based pasta? You can kind of put it together that way where you have a little bit more flexibility,
Yeah.
so that you can kind of guesstimate your servings of each amount that would be on your plate. That makes it a lot easier when you're doing this with families.
You are full of great ideas. That's I mean, I do that, but it's just like when you say it together, it's like, yeah, that's a wonderful way to do it. And who doesn't love a baked potato bar?
Right.
And the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
just so it's
So many
adaptable
options.
depending on people's cravings, and you can't
Yeah.
control what other people do or want, and they may not be on your journey, but you do want to provide some healthy options. So if you have those all laid out, and then they can make their own. So love it.
It's
Wonderful
great.
suggestion.
Yeah. And Plant Strong has the Plant Strong pizza kits, and now they have the individual size too. So you could even do like a little pizza bar. Then you could do like a plant-based Alfredo sauce or marinara, or sometimes you can make a hummus pizza and there's your bean protein on there, and you can add tofu, and there's so many fun options to do with families. So we love the bar method.
Yeah.
I think I did a blog post about that a while ago. Even for breakfast, avocado toast, you can do oatmeal, you can do pancakes. So just
Yeah.
that's a really fun way to get your family kind of excited about and having tons of options too.
Yeah, I love that. And it incorporates the batch cooking. So it's like if you
Yeah.
make enough of it, you'll have meals for several days,
Yeah.
which is, I totally feel like is the way to go, because if you're
Yeah.
making new food every day or every other day, that does get taxing.
It's
So
exhausting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I've done that. I'll go through phases where I don't plan very well, and it's just like, okay, I love cooking, but I
Yeah.
am kind of getting tired of it. So
Yeah. Definitely.
all right. Well, we're gonna wrap up this episode. So we, went through the basics of the basics of the plate method, including, the different categories of food here. Kind of going off again of calorie density, which was building the groundwork for talking about the plate method. Before we end today, Dawn, do you have anything else you want to add about the plate method?
I just would keep it simple. Don't get in the weeds with it. Make it, have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Add as many colors as you can. This should, food should be celebrated. It should be something that's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't need to get too in the weeds with it. Just know that our bodies are very clever. They will take the nutrients from all the different foods it needs and put them together. So there's not even any need to necessarily do, the old rice and beans together.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be in the same meal on the same plate. If you just eat a variety of plant foods throughout the day, your body will assemble exactly what it needs.
Yep.
So like I said, just have fun with it and play around with it. Experiment.
Love it. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. We all have enough going on. Keep it simple.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn. So, next episode, we are going to be talking about reading labels. So, stay tuned. It is going to be a good one, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.